How to move to Dubai for business owners. Indoor ski centres, zero gravity pools, and did someone say zero tax? Sign me up. Living the Dubai lifestyle can seem like a distant dream, but it's actually a lot closer than you think. But before you start hitting the shops, buying a new bikini or those bright red Speedos, there's a few things that you need to know. So you might be thinking, what's so good about Dubai? What's the difference between a free zone company and a mainland company? What type of visa do I need? What's an Emirates ID? I've got a family. I can't just up and leave. What about healthcare and schools and my family's well-being? I've heard these same worries and fears time and time again, and I get it. But don't panic. I've made the transition myself, and honestly, it was the best decision that we ever made. We went through the entire process of leaving the UK, we still have companies in the UK, setting up over here, schools, everything. And we're going to be discussing all of those points and more. So let's dive in. Why Dubai? Well, first off, the general environment here is amazing. The weather is an obvious one, it's lovely all the time, but it's not just that. It's the knock-on effect of being outside way more than you would be in the UK. You can go for walks whenever you want, morning dips in the pool, come out on a yacht. Now, what many don't see is the cleanliness of Dubai. The streets are immaculate, as well as every restaurant and even public toilets. You'll do well to find a spot of dirt or anything out of place. It's also super safe. Now, I'm not saying don't lock your doors, but there is that element of feeling super secure that you just can't replicate in many other places. And finally, convenience. There's not much that you can't get delivered here, whether that's from stores online or a door-to-door games console repair service, which I may or may not have had to use. And that convenient lifestyle stretches across all things from food to services and everything in between. If you need it, you can get it. Now, this all sounds great, but obviously you can't experience this unless you're actually here in the country. And what do you need to do for that? Yep, you guessed it, you need a visa. There's a few different kinds of visas you can get, from tourist to freelance to golden visas. There's a whole spectrum of them. Essentially, you're either employed or you're sponsored, even if they're not described that way. That is the nature of them. So a tourist visa is pretty self-explanatory. You're either going to come here on holiday or for a visit, and that's what you're going to get issued. This will last for 30 days, but if you want to stay for even longer, you're going to need an alternative solution. Another common type of visa is a freelance visa. Now, this is the equivalent of being self-employed in the UK, but what it means is somewhere down the line you are employed by somebody. And really, the downside to this type of visa is if they decide to cancel it at any point, there's not really anything you can do about it. And my personal favourite visa, I'll explain why in a minute, is a visa via a free zone company, technically an employment visa. These visas are perfect if you own your own company and set your visa up at the same time. For example, if you were to set up a free zone company with a one visa license, this could be your visa and it would be issued to you. This way you'd be classed as an employee. The good thing about this type of visa is that they generally last for 2 years and you have full control over it. But remember, if you leave Dubai for more than 6 months, your visa will be cancelled and you will have to start the process again. So you want to choose this route. Where do you even start with setting up a company? Don't worry, I've got you. So when it comes to company formation, you can either have a mainland company or you can have a free zone company. What's the difference, I hear you ask? A mainland company tends to be more expensive and they come with a lot more requirements. You generally need to have an audit done of your accounts and you need to have an office of a certain size. And this obviously comes at cost. The plus side to setting up a mainland company is you can trade freely with the mainland in Dubai and with the rest of the world. There are no restrictions on where you can trade with a mainland company, but there are with a free zone company. Now, a free zone company is way simpler to set up with much lower cost than a mainland company. The restrictions with free zone companies are that you're not allowed to trade directly with the mainland. So if you had a client on the mainland, you wouldn't be able to service them directly. Let's say you're a shoe retailer and you want to sell shoes to a customer in the mainland. You would need to do this via a third party. It's much easier for service-based businesses, like for example, an IT contractor. You can consult with people in the mainland provided you do that from your free zone. That's because you're carrying out the service from where you are based, which is in the free zone. So for a lot of service-based businesses, there's not that much of a restriction on where you can trade. The beauty of setting up a free zone company, if it works for you, is that it's pretty simple and it can usually be done within a couple of weeks. You can use a company like mine to set it up on your behalf and obtain your visa for you. This takes all the stress away. And the best part is you don't even need to be in Dubai to set up a free zone company, but you will need to be if you're setting up a mainland company. The whole process of setting up your free zone company and obtaining your visa can be done within 4 weeks, and then you can travel to Dubai just to formalise the visa process. So you've done the whole company formation process and you've got your visa sorted, and now you need to sort out your Emirates ID. I'd argue this is probably the most important document that you need when you're living in Dubai. You're going to need it for pretty much everything, and I mean everything. Want to order some drinks by the pool and open up a tab? They probably want your Emirates ID. Open a bank account? You're going to need it. Try and get a phone contract? You're going to need it. Now, the process of getting an Emirates ID is pretty straightforward, but the time it can take can fluctuate. Once you've had your medical checks done, you can go to one of the government buildings and ask to get your Emirates ID. The delay comes because you need to have your biometrics done, which is your fingerprints. And when those appointments are available really just depends. Sometimes you can get an appointment pretty quickly, like the next day, and other times it can take a month. However, once you've had your appointment, your Emirates ID will come through within 3 to 4 days. So you've set up your company, you've got your visa, you've got your Emirates ID. Should we get onto the good stuff? Yep, you guessed it. Let's talk about tax. As an individual resident in Dubai, you won't pay any personal tax. None. As it stands, from the 1st of June 2023, there will be an introduction of corporation tax at 9%. The threshold will be 375,000 dirhams. And once your profit goes above this point, you will start to pay tax at 9%. And everyone will have to pay it unless you are exempt. Now, there will be companies that are exempt, and you can become exempt by various different methods, but you will have to have fully audited accounts. This will be a statutory audit, similar to the way it's done in the UK. So if you're considering the move, or perhaps you've already set up your business in Dubai, you're going to need an accountant at some point. There's also VAT to contend with, and the VAT threshold is 375,000 dirhams. If you go above that, you have got 30 days to register. It's important to remember that even if you're going to be making sales to outside of the GCC and therefore only charging 0% VAT, there is still a requirement to register for VAT. You can, however, request an exemption at the same time. The VAT rate is 5% unless you're making sales outside the GCC, in which case you would charge 0%. And just like VAT in the UK, you can't ignore it. I mean, you can, but you'll be hit with a 10,000 dirham penalty if you don't register for VAT in time. Yeah, I don't fancy that either, to be fair. Now, when it comes to employment taxes and national insurance and things like that, there is none of those. Yep, that's a big fat zero, so you're not going to see any of those deductions that you normally see on a UK salary. So what do you do with all of that extra income? Spend it on making memories with the ones that you love. Whew, that was a lot of information in a very short space of time. So here's a reminder of the key points. Number 1, establish what type of company you want to form. Number 2, depending on what you want to do, you need to choose the right type of visa. Number 3, get your Emirates ID in place if you're going to be resident in Dubai. Number 4, there's no personal tax, but corporation tax is coming and you can't ignore it. Number 5, don't forget about VAT. And number 6, don't forget to pack your sun cream. Psst, if you're thinking of forming a company in Dubai, don't forget, I can help. We offer a complete company formation service and visa process. If you'd like some help with this, I'll leave my contact details in the description below and you can get in touch. I hope this has been useful.